Station Halatrix stood as a symbol of peace and progression,
House.
suspended in orbit around a calm yellow star near the galactic center. The station was a melting pot of over 24 alien species. It was designed not for war, but for learning home. To the prestigious Interspecies Academy. Here, students from across the galaxy studied diplomacy, science, technology, and the arts, all under the hope of creating a peaceful future. Among all these disciplines, however, gym class was barely taken seriously for most species in the galaxy. Physical education was viewed more as an extracurricular novelty than a necessity. The Earthlings, floating jellyfish-like beings, had no need for muscle growth. The clacks, exoskeletal insectoids, were already naturally armored and preferred conserving energy. The Velnari could simply blink from one point to another using short-range biowarping, bypassing the need for endurance training altogether. So when the new student, a human from Earth, was announced, the gym roster barely noted her arrival. Her species was marked Class 12 Deathworld Origin. The students didn't know what that meant beyond they lived somewhere unpleasant. One Creel student even joked she'd probably collapse halfway through the jump drills. Her name was Private Jenna Cross, teenage transfer from one of Earth's elite survival schools, sent to participate in a cultural exchange program. She walked into the gym with her regulation uniform and a face that bore no signs of arrogance. Quiet confidence. Her arms were toned, legs solid, and across her knuckles were tiny white scars that looked suspiciously like healed-over fractures. But most aliens noticed none of that. All they saw was another soft-bodied biped. Coach Trivix, the Academy's infamous six-armed Selkran instructor, began his routine like he did every cycle. Warm-ups. Stretch and prep for light kinetic drills. Move it. The aliens went through the motions. Stretching wasn't much of a challenge for most species. The Arcthil hovered lazily.
Allie.
The Creel simply extended limbs a few times. Even Trivix didn't. Expect more than minimal effort. Then Jenna stepped into the center. Matan began. First were jumping jacks, fast and sharp. Then came burpees, dropping to the floor, jumping back up with spring-loaded energy. Push-ups followed, then clapping. Push-ups. Then one-arm push-ups. Then push-ups balanced on her fingertips. The gym fell silent. Coach Trivix's primary eyes narrowed. His other four blinked independently. He checked the monitor pad for her stats again. Age 17. Species, human. Status, active military training. Background, specialty, adaptation, and endurance. Jenna switched to jump squats. Her feet barely touched the ground before she launched up again. Her breathing remained steady, rhythmic. The floor beneath her began to thud with each landing. One of the Velnari, watching from the edge of the track, dropped the stopwatch it had been holding. She's not stopping, it chirped. The clack student beside it muttered in. Alarm? She's not even tired. The Arcthil floated higher, a defensive instinct when frightened. They began slowly drifting toward the upper ceiling beams. Coach Trivix walked forward slowly, claws tapping against the gym floor. He'd seen combat instructors, he'd trained Selkran shock troopers. But this girl was moving like she was training for war, not school. After 15 minutes of her solo warm-up, Jenna finally stopped, cracked her neck, and looked around. Is that it for warm-up? What's next? No one answered. The other students were still stretching or catching their breath after their token effort. Jenna tilted her head, genuinely confused by the silence. Did I overdo it? Coach Trivix cleared his throat, struggling to find words. Human, you know. Jennar, you, military? Jenna shrugged, sort of, pre-service. Earth schools prep us pretty early. Early? For what exactly?
She
smiled without a hint of malice, to survive and thrive. Trivix turned toward the class. Dup quotes, ... adjust the drills. Everyone now.
Oh.
With just a warm-up, one human had reshaped the entire mood of the gym. The aliens didn't know what they had just witnessed. But one thought was already spreading between them quietly, nervously. If that was just warm-up, ... what happens when she starts trying? And thus, fear began not from hostility, but from realization. A Deathworlder had entered the gym. The shock from Jenna's warm-up still lingered in the air when Coach Trivix called for the next portion of class, endurance drills. Usually this was the slowest part of gym time where students jogged at a comfortable pace, or, in the case of the Earthlings, simply hovered until the timer beeped. Cardio wasn't considered a competitive skill in most galactic species. The clacks had energy reserves suited for short bursts, not long distance. The Velnary's biowarping made running unnecessary. Even the Creel only ran when predators were involved, and those didn't exist in artificial space environments. But Coach Trivix, with a new curiosity flickering in his otherwise stern demeanor, saw a rare opportunity. Today's run, he declared, is 10 laps. Station perimeter. That's 300 meters per lap. No excuses. No. The aliens groaned. The Creel adjusted their hydration tubes. The Earthlings collectively lowered their buoyancy to look exhausted before they even started. The clacks protested in low, clicking tones about the inefficiency of such activity. Only Jenna gave a simple nod. Her expression was relaxed but focused. The moment the starting chime sounded, they took off. The Earthlings immediately took to the air, slowly drifting in the general direction of the track. The Velnary vanished and reappeared every 20 meters or so, using short biowarps to skip physical exertion. The clacks and Creel took lumbering strides, groaning and already panting by lap 2. Jenna ran, no tricks, no enhancements. Just footfalls slapping rhythmically against the metal floor. By lap 3, several students were wheezing. Clacks nearly tripped and rolled off the path, its legs seizing from fatigue. The Creel struggled to maintain even a light jog, their bodies, not built for long-term motion. Sweat tore the alien equivalents of it, dripped freely, Jenna. She was breathing through her nose. Lap 4 came and went. Her pace didn't falter. Her strides were long and practiced. Her arms moved in precise balance, the sign of someone who had done this countless times before. Lap 6 saw the first collapse. A Velnary blinked too quickly between steps and miscalculated, crashing into a wall and calling for medical exemption. Lap 7. And the Earthlings gave up pretending to glide with effort and floated toward the ceiling to rest. "This is barbaric," one hissed. Coach Trivix watched silently, arms crossed, eyes focused only on Jenna. Lap 10 arrived, official finish. Everyone expected Jenna to stop. She didn't. She sprinted. The echo of her footfalls changed pitch. As she accelerated, her ponytail snapped like a whip behind her. Muscles tightened, posture straightened. She wasn't just running, she was fighting the air itself. 3 more laps. The aliens, sprawled across benches and breathing into stabilizers, stared in disbelief. "She's enjoying it," gasped a Creel. "She runs like she's chasing something," muttered a Clax, "or like something's chasing her," corrected the Earthlings softly. Coach Trivix activated a stopwatch. He didn't speak, just stared at the numbers. Even his hardened, war-scarred expression was beginning to soften into awe when Jenna finally skidded to a halt. She barely looked winded, a soft mist of sweat on her brow, maybe, but her breathing was still steady. She turned back to the group, smiling like someone who had just taken a morning stroll. "What's next?" No one answered, not even Coach Trivix. After a long silence, he finally approached and said, "Private Cross, tell me, what kind of environment do humans train in on Earth? We've got deserts, mountains, oceans, acid rain, venomous animals, earthquakes, volcanoes. Take your pick. Why would you run in those conditions?" She chuckled. "'Cause you never know when something bigger, faster, or hungrier wants to catch you. If it doesn't kill you the first time, the second time it'll just be faster. So we train harder." The room went quiet again. No bravado, no exaggeration. Just a calm, practiced answer from someone who meant every word. Coach Trivix muttered under his breath, "Deathworlders." Every single time. Suddenly, the term Deathworld made much more sense to the other students. It wasn't just about environmental hostility. It was about what that hostility forged. And Jenna Cross wasn't an outlier. After Jenna's astonishing performance during the cardio drills, the atmosphere in the gym had changed completely. Hey! The aliens who once treated gym class as a glorified nap now watched her every movement with wide eyes and tense limbs. Her casual strength and tireless stamina weren't just intimidating, they were impossible by most species standards. But strength training? That was a different matter. Coach Trivix, still skeptical deep down, believed there were limits even for a Deathworlder. Cardio, after all, was just movement. But resistance training raw power, that was the true test of muscle structure, bone density, and evolutionary biology. Today's assignment, resistance exercises with weighted coils, magnet pulse bands, and kinetic lifters calibrated for each species. The gym featured an automated system that adjusted weights based on the student's physiology and species classification. The clacks, with their exoskeletal load bearers, often topped the charts. Velnari, despite their speed, had poor upper body strength. The Earthlings rarely participated in anything that involved touching solid matter. Jenna stood at her station, stretching her arms as the equipment calibrated to human average. A low hum activated the platform as it prepared her magnetic resistance. Bar Trivix, hovering near a console, decided to test her willingness. Human, you may adjust difficulty, within reason.
Ow!
Jenna cracked her neck. What's the upper limit? The coach didn't answer. Instead, he gestured toward the dial. She turned it to maximum. Instantly, murmurs erupted across the gym. Did she just max it out? She'll tear something. No way that frame holds up. Coach Trivix's hand hovered near the medical override. Break both arms, he muttered. Jenna approached the bar. Deadlift first. She wrapped her hands around the pulsating grip coils and steadied her feet. The bar groaned. It bent slightly under the magnetic tension. Jenna inhaled, pulled, and in a single fluid motion, lifted it. Her form was perfect, controlled. Her arms trembled for a second, but she stabilized. Then she set it down calmly. Want to try squat next? Several alien students stepped back instinctively. The squat platform activated. She ducked beneath the bar, let it rest on her shoulders, dropped into a low stance before rising smoothly. Twice, 3 times. Sweat formed on her brow. Out. But her face never showed strain, only focus. She wasn't doing it to impress. She was doing it because this was normal for her. The room was silent, save for the occasional creak of the overloaded equipment. Then she turned toward the wall and grabbed. Velnari resistance coil. These were designed for species with trispinal muscle cores. Like Clax and Selkran soldiers used them. Most students couldn't even uncoil one. Jenna slung it over her shoulder. The bar flexed audibly. Magnetic locks strained. Even the alloy housing trembled as she prepared for an overhead press. No, this is unsafe. Trivix stepped forward. That weight is engineered for combat-grade Selkran. But Jenna was already pressing. Her arms extended, her legs anchored, veins stood out against her arms. Her breath slowed, her whole body aligned with perfect biomachic. She pushed the weight up, held it, then slowly lowered it to the mat knees. Slightly bending to absorb the pressure, the gym was deathly quiet. A Clax student let out a terrified clicking sound and collapsed. One of the Arcthiel lost control of its lift pattern and bumped into a ceiling beam. A Velnari chirped something that translated roughly to, "We are unworthy of this existence." Jenna sat on the floor, drinking from her bottle, legs outstretched. "What?" she asked casually. "Earth gym class is way worse than this." Coach Trivix looked at her with a deepening respect and dread. "You were trained to do this." Shrugged. "Not really, it's just how we grow up. Everyone back home lifts, even kids. It's part of basic health." He turned slowly to face the class. Arms folded. New standard. All students must meet 60% of Deathworlder tier before certification. No exceptions. A collective groan echoed from the walls. The Clax, twitching, muttered, "That's a death sentence." Trivix just nodded. "Exactly." After watching Jenna dominate cardio and strength training, the alien students began to treat her with a strange mix of fear and reverence. In quiet corners of the academy, her name became synonymous with unstoppable. Some believed she was genetically enhanced. Others were sure she was part of a military experiment. But one belief began to rise above the rest. If she could do that with exercise, what would happen in a fight? That question haunted the Jim Halzentel, Coach Trivix. Either emboldened by curiosity or caught in a lapse of judgment, decided to find out. He called for a combat simulation. The gym had safety protocols. Real weapons were forbidden and padded. Suits and sensory override fields dulled physical pain. It was the closest students could get to combat without violating galactic peace accords. Today, Trivix announced, we run a defensive simulation. Human versus class composite. Jenna blinked. Composite. The coach smiled grimly. Everyone else, together. You are the target. They are the attackers. Let's see how Terran's self-defense compares. Jenna simply nodded and began rapping, her hands in friction tape. The other students hesitated. None of them wanted to attack her directly, but with the instructor watching, they had no choice. The Velneri calibrated their blink shifts. The Clax flexed their armored claws. The Creel activated low-level energy pads. Simulation start, barked Trivix. The moment the buzzer sounded, chaos erupted. 2 Creel charged first, their flat feet stomping toward her like stomping tanks. Jenna sidestepped the first and ducked. Beneath the second, grabbing its leg mid-charge and using its momentum to flip it onto its back. It hit the mat with a heavy thud that echoed off the gym walls. Before she could straighten up, a Clax came in, swinging. Her serrated limbs jabbed forward, but Jenna didn't retreat. She advanced, slipping into the Clax's range, deflecting its strikes and hammering her elbow into the soft joint between 2 armor plates. The Clax folded instantly. The Arakthil floated above, trying to provide air support by dropping kinetic pods. Jenna rolled between strikes and hurled a pod right back dead center into its propulsion sac. It crashed harmlessly onto the foam. Matt, stunned. Then came the Velneri. They tried their signature. Biowarp maneuver appearing behind. Her in a blink to strike her blind spot. Jenna didn't even flinch. She moved before they arrived. Elbowing the air a half-second before Velneri materialized. Her strike connected on arrival, launching the poor alien backward in a spiral of limbs by now. Half the class was down. Jenna's breathing hadn't changed. She circled like a predator, angry, not even excited, just focused. Every movement was deliberate. Every strike efficient. No wasted energy. No panic. She wasn't fighting like a student. She was fighting like someone who had survived. A real danger. Coach Trivix watched in stunned silence. This wasn't aggression. This was reflex. Muscle memory. Discipline. She wasn't trying to win. She was trying not to hurt anyone. But that's what made it terrifying. The final 3 students, 2 Arakthil and 1 trembling Creel backed. Away slowly, the simulation timer expired. Jenna stood alone in the center of the gym floor. Surrounded by groaning, dazed students, she looked around and raised a brow. Is that it? Trivix approached, his heavy frame quieter than usual. I underestimated you. She gave a small smile. No offense taken. I wasn't just testing you, he admitted. I was testing them. Wanted them to see what they're up against. What you are, Jenna shrugged. We're not all like me, but we can be. Earth teaches us early. We don't have fangs or scales. Just minds and grit. So we make everything a lesson. Every mile, every push, every fight. He looked over the battered group. Lesson received. That day, 6 students withdrew from combat certification. 1 requested a full academic transfer. Another simply stopped showing up to gym class. No one laughed at the humans anymore. No one questioned what Deathworlder meant, and Coach Trivix changed the curriculum. By the end of the week, Private Jenna Cross had become a myth in her own time. She didn't shout or show off. She never insulted anyone, nor did she act like she was better than the other students.
No.
But the effect she had on Station Halatrix's Academy Gym was seismic. Her presence had turned fear into focus. No longer did alien students treat gym class like a ceremonial pastime. Something in them had changed. It all started with how she trained. She didn't move like someone trying to win. She moved like someone used to fighting for her life. What made it more disturbing, at least to the alien students, was that Jenna didn't act like anything she did was extraordinary. She wasn't pushing herself to impress them. This was just normal human behavior. That realization was far more terrifying than any show of strength coach. Trivix saw it firsthand. The Clax, normally creatures of minimal movement and maximum defense, began practicing their footwork outside of class.
Oh.
The Velnari students, previously content to bio-warp past any physical exertion, started doing long stretches of track sprints, gasping and complaining the entire way but not stopping. Even the Aracathil had begun floating closer to ground level, attempting to control their lift sacks for weight-bearing training. And why? Because they had seen what a single human, no weapons, no armor, no enhancements, was capable of. Jenna had shown them the physical potential of what a so-called primitive species could do. But it was more than physical. There was something about her mind. It was the way she never gave up, how she never showed frustration, only reflection, the way. She studied her failures as tools to improve, not signs of weakness. It was a philosophy alien to most galactic species, many of whom came from cultures where failure was shameful, or where combat was a relic of ancient history. For humans, failure was part of the process. Pain wasn't punishment, it was information. Trivix knew that had to be captured, and so, one day after class, he stood before the battered gym floor, stared at the class roster, and made a choice. He walked to the instructor terminal and updated the physical fitness criteria. New standard, established designation, Deathworlder tier. All students must meet at least 60% of the Deathworlder tier benchmarks for endurance, strength, agility, and combat reflexes. No exceptions, no modifications, no excuses. He posted the announcement. Across the Academy network, within 24 hours, panic erupted. Petitions were filed. Protests held. Parents of elite species demanded exemptions. How could a single human define the baseline for all other species? But Trivix held firm. "You've seen her," he told. "A delegation of angry Velnari elders. She's a student, not a warrior, unenhanced. That's natural human development. You call it impossible. I call it the new reality." Back in the gym, Jenna continued her workouts like nothing had changed. She was now surrounded by a dozen students, mimicking her movements clumsily, yes, but with determination. Creel struggled through a squat routine, watching Jenna's form on a mirrored screen. Clack's pair were awkwardly attempting human push-ups, though their joints weren't built for it. The Velnari practiced sprinting without blinking. Even Coach Trivix joined in now and then, testing his old bones against hers. He never lasted long. "Why do you keep coming back?" Jenna asked him one day after a sparring match where he ended up flat on the mat again because he groaned, holding his ribs. "You're setting the pace." "I'm not trying to. That's the terrifying part." He paused, then added with a faint smile, "You're a walking standard now, human." A reminder that our idea of strength wasn't even close. In the months that followed, the legend of the Deathworlder standard spread far beyond Station Halatrix. Other academies began requesting footage. A few military officers requested cross-training programs based on Earth's methodologies. And humans, they barely noticed because, 4. Earth survival wasn't a special skill. It was just part of growing up. On a world where gravity tried to crush you, predators hunted you, and storms could erase whole cities overnight. You didn't train to be the best. You trained because you had to. And now the galaxy was catching up.